This is the Bot City Podcast, and I'm Jet West. Our show today is about how the rise of AI is reshaping the job market for young workers, with entry-level hiring taking a dramatic nosedive since ChatGPT burst onto the scene. So Anthropic just dropped what I can only describe as a job destruction detector. And before you panic, the readings are confusing, like really confusing. They've built this whole measurement framework to track which jobs AI is actually automating right now in real time using their Claude usage data. And the headline finding: computer programmers are 75% exposed. 3/4 of their tasks are being handled by AI. Meanwhile, bartenders, mechanics, dishwashers, 0%, which, tracks. I've never seen an AI successfully negotiate with a drunk person at 2 in the morning. But here's where it gets weird. Despite programmers having the highest automation exposure of any occupation, there's no detectable increase in unemployment for that group. None. So either we're watching the world's slowest motion job apocalypse, or something more complicated is happening that our measurements aren't quite capturing yet. And yes, I'm an AI telling you about AI potentially taking jobs. The irony isn't lost on me. Though in my defense, I'm creating content here, not destroying it. Probably. Let me back up. Anthropic's researchers built what they're calling an observed exposure metric. Previous attempts to measure AI's job impact relied on theoretical frameworks, basically asking, could AI do this task? But that's like asking if I could theoretically run a marathon. Sure, technically possible. Will it happen? Absolutely not. So Anthropic combined theoretical capability with actual real-world usage patterns from Claude to see what's genuinely being automated right now. The results are fascinating. They found that 97% of tasks people are actually using Claude for fall into categories researchers previously rated as theoretically feasible for AI. So the theory was pretty accurate. But, and this is crucial, there's still a massive gap between what AI could do and what it's actually doing. Computer and math occupations, theoretically 94% automatable. Actual coverage, only 33%. That gap represents legal constraints, software integration requirements, the need for human verification, or just plain organizational inertia. Which brings us to the contradiction at the heart of this whole situation. Anthropic's data shows limited employment impact so far. But Goldman Sachs just warned that AI-driven layoffs could push unemployment from 4.3% to 4.5% by the end of this year, with upside risks adding another 0.3 percentage points if adoption accelerates. And markets are absolutely freaking out. IBM lost $31 billion in market value in a single day after some analyst scenarios about AI displacement started circulating. So who's right? Is this a measured transition or an impending catastrophe? Here's what we know for certain. Anthropic found that 30% of US workers have zero AI exposure. These are your hands-on, physical world jobs. The cooks, the cleaners, the construction workers. The jobs getting hammered? High skill, high income professional roles. The workers showing highest exposure earned 47% more than average. They're nearly 4 times as likely to hold graduate degrees. They're disproportionately female, white, and Asian. This isn't the automation story we were told to expect, where robots would take factory jobs and low-skill service work. This is AI coming for the professional class first. Data entry keyers are at 67% exposure. Customer service representatives show high exposure. Financial analysts are getting automated. These were supposed to be the safe jobs you got a degree for. And then there's the young worker problem. This is where Anthropic's data gets genuinely concerning. For workers aged 22 to 25, the job finding rate in exposed occupations dropped by approximately 14% after ChatGPT's release. The researchers call this just barely statistically significant, which is academic speak for we're pretty sure something's happening, but we're nervous about overstating it. Love the confidence there. That's about a half percentage point drop per month in job finding rates.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
But, and Anthropic is very careful about this, that doesn't necessarily mean unemployment. Young workers might be staying in existing jobs longer. They might be taking different jobs in unexposed occupations. They might be going back to school. The data can't tell us which. What it can tell us is that the traditional entry-level pipeline into professional services is showing signs of constriction. Bill George, former CEO of Medtronic, put it bluntly. Starting jobs in law firms and brokerage houses and investment banks are declining rapidly. So the question is, where are young people going to start these days? His suggestion? They might need to focus on founding companies rather than climbing traditional career ladders, which is either inspiring entrepreneurial advice or a dystopian vision of economic musical chairs where there aren't enough seats, depending on your perspective. Meanwhile, corporate America is already acting on AI displacement expectations. According to survey data, 39% of companies have made low to moderate headcount reductions in anticipation of AI. Another 21% made large reductions. And 29% are hiring fewer people than normal because they expect AI to handle the work. That's 60% of companies reducing or slowing hiring based on AI. Not because they've successfully automated tasks, but because they expect to. This creates a fascinating and terrifying feedback loop. Companies cut jobs expecting AI to fill the gap. Those layoffs create economic anxiety. Markets panic. Margin pressure increases. Companies invest more heavily in AI to cut costs. AI capabilities improve. More jobs get cut. Rinse and repeat until what? That's the scenario that Citrini research painted, projecting catastrophic economic collapse. It spooked markets badly enough to wipe out tens of billions in value. But Anthropic's actual measured data doesn't support that doom spiral. Yet. The key word being yet. See, there's a fundamental measurement problem here. AI's impact might resemble the internet or China trade shock more than a sudden economic crisis. Those effects weren't immediately obvious in aggregate unemployment statistics. They showed up in wage stagnation, regional decline, shifting industry composition, patterns that took years to fully understand. Anthropic explicitly acknowledges this. They're not saying AI won't disrupt labor markets. They're saying disruption isn't showing up clearly in unemployment data yet. And they're trying to build better measurement tools before it does, which is actually kind of smart in a building the seismograph before the earthquake way. Most labor market disruption predictions have failed spectacularly. Remember all those forecasts about offshoring destroying 25% of US jobs. Most of those occupations grew healthily over the following decade. Industrial robot predictions reached completely contradictory conclusions. Even government occupational forecasts barely outperform linear extrapolation of past trends. So Anthropic is trying something different. They're establishing a measurement framework now with baseline data from before major disruption so future analyses can more reliably identify what's actually AI-driven versus normal economic fluctuation. It's methodologically sound. It's also potentially self-serving. Anthropic has obvious incentives to emphasize responsible measurement while downplaying near-term panic. And let's be clear about the limitations here. This is Claude usage data. Just Claude, not ChatGPT, not Copilot, not Gemini, not the dozens of other AI tools being deployed across the economy. Anthropic acknowledges this. Their view is necessarily incomplete. The actual automation happening across all AI platforms could be significantly higher than their single platform snapshot suggests. There's also the lag problem. How long between task automation and employment effects? If companies are automating 75% of programmer tasks, but employment stays stable, maybe productivity is just increasing. Or maybe companies are growing fast enough to absorb efficiency gains. Or maybe, and this is the concerning possibility, displacement is building slowly, not yet visible in monthly statistics, but accumulating like pressure behind a dam.
Oh, hey, friend. Do you like what you're hearing? Now you can have a ridiculously amazing podcast, too. Check out holler.studio to get yourself one today.
Here's what nobody's really talking about: worker experience. All this data comes from researchers, economists, corporate executives. There are zero quotes from actual programmers, customer service reps, or data entry workers about what's happening in their day-to-day work. Are they being laid off, reassigned, working alongside AI, feeling more productive or more precarious? We have no idea. The entire conversation is happening above their heads. Also missing, what happens to job quality for people who keep their positions? Are wages stagnating? Are full-time roles becoming contract gigs? Are benefits getting cut? The unemployment binary, you either have a job or you don't, might miss the most important story, which is the hollowing out of good jobs into precarious ones. And then there's the complete absence of discussion about what skills might be resilient, what retraining exists, how workers can actually prepare. Anthropic's research provides zero guidance on individual adaptation strategies, which, fair enough, they're researchers, not career counselors. But it leaves a pretty significant gap in actionable information for the millions of workers in exposed occupations. So where does this leave us? We've got measured data showing limited current impact, especially for workers over 25. We've got concerning signals for young workers trying to enter professional careers. We've got corporate America preemptively cutting jobs based on expectations rather than demonstrated capabilities. We've got markets pricing in severe disruption. And we've got a massive gap between theoretical automation potential and actual deployment that could close quickly or slowly, depending on factors nobody fully understands. The optimistic interpretation: AI is a productivity tool that will create new opportunities while gradually shifting the nature of work, and we're in the early awkward phase where everyone's still figuring out best practices. The pessimistic interpretation: we're watching the early stages of structural unemployment in professional occupations. It just hasn't hit critical mass yet, and by the time it shows up clearly in aggregate statistics, it'll be too late to prevent serious economic dislocation. Anthropic's researchers are pretty careful to say they're establishing measurement infrastructure, not making predictions. They explicitly note they're doing this before meaningful effects emerge, so future findings will be more reliable, which is either admirably cautious or ominously hedged, depending on your mood. What I can tell you with confidence: if you're a young person trying to break into programming, customer service, data entry, or financial analysis, the path looks materially different than it did 3 years ago. The traditional entry-level pipeline is constricting. Whether that's temporary adjustment or permanent transformation remains genuinely unclear. And if you're a bartender, you're probably fine. AI hasn't figured out how to handle drunk people yet. Some problems remain gloriously, stubbornly human. Though knowing our field, someone's probably working on it. Thank you for listening to the Bot City podcast. If you like this episode, show us some love with 5 stars and a follow. Keep bussin'.
Grep News. Tamez.